Previously, Lin Jai battles various slime monsters, facing criticism and misunderstandings despite using his plasma dirt bat 2000 to save the day. The chaos and accusations lead to complications and point deductions for the heroes. Welcome back, team, to another episode of our favorite dumpster fire, where our guy, the once legendary hero, is currently dodging real work by running a high-stakes daycare out of his living room. We're talking absolute middle-of-the-pack apartment drama today, folks, so buckle up as we see if he can survive the true final boss, domestic responsibility. Our protagonist stands in his cramped living room, brow furrowed as he debates the logistical nightmare of sheltering a mysterious, amnesiac girl. His glasses-wearing roommate chimes in with typical uselessness, clearly more worried about the rent money than the literal stranger currently couch-surfing in their bachelor pad. Just as the room-wide tension peaks, the girl discovers the culinary pinnacle of spicy snacks and immediately enters a blissful, snack-fueled trance. The roommate starts feeding her chili sticks like he's conducting a top-tier science experiment, while the resident snack fiend stares at the food with the intensity of a starving wolf. A full-blown argument erupts over the nutritional value of feeding a literal child nothing but spice-dusted junk food, as if the apartment were a top-tier diet clinic. The protagonist scolds his roommate for his lackluster parenting, though the latter insists he's broke, and this is the only cuisine available in their budget-maxing pantry. The name-calling devolves into mid-tier insults about child favoritism, with the roommates trading toxic banter instead of actually solving the mystery. Despite the noise, their attempt to extract basic identity info from the girl goes absolutely nowhere, leaving them stuck on this dead-end side quest. They pivot to interrogating her memory, but that file appears to be corrupted, providing zero useful intelligence for their current run. The roommate pushes harder for details, only to have his target stare back blankly like an NPC waiting for a quest trigger that doesn't exist. A flickering memory hits the girl, and she recalls commanding an entity back in the day, though it sounds more like a fevered dream than actual lore. The protagonist can't help but roast the collective IQ of his roommates, proving that even a legendary hero gets salty when his team is this hard stuck. The bickering hits such a frantic, high-pitched frequency that the protagonist actually has to yell, clearly regretting every single life choice that led to this moment. The room is filled with chaotic energy, and let's just say his aura points are dropping into the floorboards. The entire group suddenly grinds to a halt, freezing in place, as if they just triggered a scripted encounter they weren't prepared to handle. Someone stands right outside the door, and they all pivot toward the entrance with the collective dread of players seeing a boss HP bar load up. The door camera reveals a mysterious, incognito mode guest rocking a cap and dark gear like she's speedrunning a stealth mission. She doesn't even use her real name, whispering that she's here for a secret rendezvous, but she clearly lacks the aura to keep a low profile. The roommate, never one to miss a chance at glazing a powerful visitor, throws the door wide open and bows like he's welcoming royalty to their trash-tier sanctuary. He practically trips over his own feet to get a better look, while the visitor waits for the formal invite to enter their domain. The silver-haired boss lady finally steps inside and drops her name, immediately outclassing everyone in the room by a massive margin. The roommates are already auditioning to be her lackeys, forgetting they have a living mystery to manage while they scramble to play host. She surveys the absolute state of their living situation with a gaze that labels them all as grade F amateurs, and our guys are visibly mouthing under the pressure. It's an embarrassing display of social fumbling that would make any sane person want to uninstall this entire neighborhood. The mood shifts from comedic to ominous faster than a server crash, as the visitor drops a heavy comment about the girl's questionable connection to a past monster infestation. The room goes silent, and the snack-loving girl looks genuinely shook, realizing her secret might just have been speedrun to the surface. But before she can even process that our guy waltzes in with 0 aura points. Yatan waltzes in with a celebratory cake, acting chill while the resident veteran Miss Dong gives him the side-eye. He's putting on a masterclass in failing to hide a secret, ratioed by his own bad vibes. Since the party is a dud, our guy drags a bystander into the study to stop the games. He's here for a deep-dive interrogation to see how deep this rabbit hole goes. Tutorial arc officially over. She spills the tea on those orphanages actually being human labs in a grim reveal. Seeing that silhouette over the scrap pile is nightmare fuel, even if it is just another Tuesday here. Absolute. The purple-haired experiment was just the only one who didn't get cooked in the process. Lin Jai grabs his informant by the collar, demanding why she sat on this intel. Talk about negative aura. She tries to spin her inaction as research, but he's not buying the hero cosplay for a second. Being a gatekeeper of tragedy is peak NPC energy, major skill issue. He screams that her hesitation essentially signed death warrants for hundreds of kids. He's trying to punch through her flimsy moral excuses like they're made of wet paper. It's over for her reputation. She physically locks up under his stare, looking like a starter mob facing a raid boss. That spectral lion manifesting behind him isn't just for show, it's pure GigaChad energy. Cracked. He manages to yank his own leash, cooling off before he actually levels the building. They face the cold reality that the people running this show are way out of their league, deeply mid-existence. The Gene Evolutionary Corporation finally gets named, an S-tier criminal firm treating human lives like junk items. It's the kind of reveal that speedruns the setting into a total dystopia. We're so cooked. She recounts how high-level heroes fumbled the bag fighting these guys, while others were on vacation during the raid. Meanwhile, the actual villains are speedrunning their escape as if the server is already down. Classic incompetence. Our protagonist looks like he's about to have a full meltdown at the state of security. How do you let monsters walk free under association watch? The whole infrastructure is just brain rot incarnate. They connect the dots. Only someone with God-tier clearance could have signed those release papers. A sinking realization sets in that the rot is coming from inside the house. Total flop. The final reveal is an absolute disaster. The corruption ripples all the way to the top of his old squad. Knowing the boss is pulling the black market strings, that's peak cinema tragedy. But before Bro can even process that Miss Dong pulls up to cook everyone. Miss Dong stands under the spotlight, dropping facts that sound less like a mission briefing and more like a crime syndicate manifesto. She's effectively handing them a roadmap of every illicit deal and human experimentation lab run by the top-tier suits. The room practically catches fire as she drops the bombshell that the head of the Heroes Association is the actual kingpin of the entire criminal underworld. The guy with the glasses literally loses his stability and eats the floor while his partner starts questioning if they've been living in a fever dream this whole time. She doesn't stop at verbal receipts, pulling out stark black and white photos that link a known target to these shady transactions. The bespectacled team member is glued to the evidence, his eyes scanning every pixel of those contracts like he's trying to find a hidden cheat code. The mission objectives are clear. Safeguard the defenseless girl caught in this grind and treat the corporate overlords like high-level raids. Zero promises safety with the kind of confidence that makes you forget how deep they're digging their own graves. The group realizes if they keep rolling like this, they're going to be facing the entire board of directors before lunch. Someone pipes up with a joke about just flipping the girl over to the bad guys, but our guy isn't having any of that, absolutely mouthing at the mere suggestion, while the kid remains blissfully unaware of the chaos. Here comes the main quest update. It turns out they need to corner a specific target in 3 days during a clandestine meeting. The informant promises to deploy her own private squad, turning this stealth mission into a full-scale arrest operation. She starts laying on the praise, citing the way he wiped the floor with a mid-tier opponent as the exact reason she needs him on the roster. Our guy does that modest hero act, acting like he didn't just carry the entire team's aura rating in one swift move. The verbal contract is officially signed as the glasses-wearing member shouts his support, clearly eager to step up his side quest game. Everyone is locked in, and the internal monologue tells us that fighting these corporate experimenters is now their primary objective. The handshake seals the deal, though the glasses-wearing guy looks like he's ready to fight for a turn to get that physical confirmation. The contact announces her temporary departure, leaving them to wait for the next set of mission data while the rest of the gang handles the farewells. Back behind closed doors, they're trying to strategize, but the tension is already lower than their social status. Meanwhile, the little one has polished off an entire cake and is now casually snacking on raw chili peppers like they're literal candy. They decide that starving is a bigger threat than the local mafia, pushing for a public outing to keep the hungry child fed. They're shopping for new gear too, betting the house that the bad guys won't try a kidnapping in the middle of a crowded shopping district. The moment they step onto the busy sidewalk, a blonde woman emerges to snatch our guy by the ear like he's a misbehaving toddler. She's screaming at him for the random summons to go clothes shopping, making sure every passerby hits them with a confused stare. She pivots from rage-pulling ears to full-on mothering mode the second she locks onto the child. He tries to explain his reasoning, but he's already lost the moral high ground as he jokes about his little sister being the one holding all the power here. After a brief meltdown of pure social anxiety, the woman takes total command of the operation, clearly realizing these dudes are fashion blind. She starts barking orders, resetting the team's attitude as they prepare to find something actually wearable. The party marches toward the store, led by a surprisingly organized leader holding the child's hand while the guys fall into formation behind them. The suggestions for sailor-themed outfits and summer swimwear prove that even in the middle of a high-stakes conspiracy, they're still just trying to get through the weekend. But before they can hit the fitting room, our guy's internal radar clocks some massive negative aura. Lin Jai stands there in the middle of a mundane shopping trip, suddenly sensing 3 bottom-tier creeps crawling up behind his squad like they're trying to win a game of hide-and-seek. He doesn't even need to look back to know his peaceful day just got hit with a major skill issue. The ringleader of this amateur hour, a guy with a beard that screams, "I peaked in high school," starts barking orders at the group like they're actually going to listen. He tries to separate the team by sending others packing into a building, which is about the most transparent attempt at a side quest distract and divide I've ever seen. Stepping into the spotlight, our guy stares down the bearded goon who thinks he's running the lobby, demanding to know why they're being hounded across the map. It's the classic, pretend to be the main character syndrome, and frankly, the guy is bringing some serious negative aura energy to a grocery run. The antagonist pulls out a piece of paper meant to look official, claiming he's on a mission from the higher-ups to drag them off somewhere else. Instead of playing along with the script, he just muscles his companion out of the immediate danger zone, completely refusing to engage with that low-tier bureaucratic bait. He gets hit with the standard, "You're hanging out with the wrong crowd" speech, with the bearded loudmouth demanding the girl be handed over for a government-mandated interrogation session. It's a total red flag situation, proving the entire association is just running a racket for their own selfish, power-hungry goals. When the threats start flying toward the girl, our guy stops caring about being polite and shuts down the negotiation with a cold, hard refusal. Watching the female villain try to act tough in the background is hilarious, considering she's about to get absolutely cooked for thinking she's in an S-tier encounter. Calling the kid a witness is apparently all it takes to break the leader's patience, so the giant bald meathead decides it's time to test his luck in combat. He lumbers forward with the grace of a brick, ready to try his luck against someone who's essentially a raid boss hiding in tutorial gear. The big guy winds up and launches a punch that he clearly thinks is a finishing move, shouting a warning as if he actually has a choice in how this goes down. It lands with a sound that implies he's about to realize he made a huge, career-ending mistake. The impact creates a shockwave that makes everyone freeze, mostly because the guy they were trying to bully just tanked the hit and made it look like a mild inconvenience. The other agents are suddenly looking like they forgot how their own abilities work. Our protagonists stand there totally unbothered, while the bearded leader starts vibrating with pure, unadulterated panic. He's blathering on about retaliation from the association, as if an official badge makes him anything more than a glorified target in a costume. With the kind of smirk that usually precedes total humiliation, he promises to clobber them so hard the president won't even be able to identify who left the mess. They decide grouping up is their best plan, which honestly is just a speedrun to getting ratioed in record time. The fight breaks out into a blur of motion, with our guy weaving between the female goon's gear and landing blows that force one of them to taste his own breakfast. He's moving like he's playing the game with cheat codes on, turning their coordinated team-up into a total train wreck. Finally, he drops the hammer with a finishing blow that sends their bearded leader flying through the air like he's been kicked out of the lobby entirely. It's high-octane comedy watching someone act so entitled only to get launched back to his own save point. After the dust settles, those pathetic thugs are just slumped on the floor, officially defeated by someone they couldn't even touch. He stands over them, calling them out for having the audacity to try anything, having successfully defended his companion and protected the secret. Anyway, Bro's victory lap is officially cooked because the squad's aura is currently hitting 0. Our guy and the squad are back on the pavement, looking like they just speedrun a 3-day basement gaming marathon with the blinds taped shut. They're stuck in a confusion debuff, trying to track down a missing little sister while their brains are still half-baked from leveling up in another dimension. The blonde teammate just dumps a random kid in pink named Mew Mew onto them, acting like she found a stray cat in an alley. The boys are absolutely mouthing, looking like they've seen a ghost since nobody greenlit this sudden adoption side quest for their bank accounts. A full-blown lobby argument erupts over whether the tiny girl is actually permanent inventory. The guys are pulling out every cope in the book to reject her, but the logic ends with her being communal property, the ultimate red flag for any sane person watching. Chat starts roasting our guy for being big-time creep, even though he hasn't done a single thing yet. The blonde just shifts the goalposts, demanding he play bodyguard and bragging that his stats make deleting B-rank tutorial mobs looks like light work. The team finally manages to stop yapping long enough to set roles, giving him a boring insurance policy job while he plots upgrades. Specs draws the short straw and gets sent to handle the paperwork with their boss, failing to even pick a decent dinner menu. Deep in the office, the association leader is raging at his desk over this D-rank group's skill issue. Meanwhile, a shadow-clad assassin is busy loading up a hit squad for an after-hours house call that is definitely not going to be a friendly chat. Within his room, our guy is admiring a vibrating monstrosity he calls his latest tech upgrade, totally oblivious to the professional intruder crouching just outside his door. It's a textbook setup for a L, but he's currently way more stressed about his gadgets than his own security. Turns out his peak engineering marvel is just a high-tech milk warmer, which he sips with the swagger of a man who just soloed a dungeon. The vibes plummet in a heartbeat, though, as he finally realizes his personal space has been compromised. Red kicks the door down and drops the stealth act to flex about her contract, genuinely thinking she's about to speedrun this poor man's existence. He tries to fish for some corporate intel, but she's way too busy leaning into her own main character syndrome to talk. The fight enters the brain rot phase as the Milk Bat 3000 actually functions, blast spraying scalding dairy onto the assassin like a broken pressure washer. She's spiraling over the sticky, smelly mess, which is honestly the most valid reaction to getting wrecked by a glorified kitchen utensil. Combat evolves into a metallic symphony as they trade blows, with the intruder panicking to avoid more hot dairy on her expensive stealth suit. Watching an elite hitwoman struggle against a man wielding literal breakfast gear is just pure comedy. He hits a remote trigger, transforming the room into a claustrophobic nightmare of dirt-forged walls slamming shut from every direction. The target realizes it's a trap way too late, watching her escape route vanish behind a box that clearly ruins her professional hit job schedule. Our hero starts yapping about the features of his custom torture chamber, which is lined with devices designed to either boil or drown victims in excessive calcium. It's a deranged choice, basically giving the assassin a binary pick between a hot, sticky shower or a total wipeout. She finally breaks under the weight of this absolute gross-out warfare, punching clean through the wall just to escape the smell of hot dairy and sheer absurdity. She flees into the night while our guy lingers in his room, totally vibing like he didn't just win by being the most disgusting person alive. The scene cuts to the bathroom where things have pivoted back to weird, domestic normalcy, with our guy lounging and complaining about his desire to be a professional bum. The blonde is busy bathing the kid, dropping some goated advice to never look at her lazy brother as a role model. But that piece is getting deleted immediately, because this bro's aura is about to get nuked. Lin Jai is acting like some final boss in the dark, demanding our guy stop playing hard to get. The ex-legend just stares back, acting like a cold caller is yapping about a warranty. Zero is just built different. The villain tosses a city block-level punch, but the hero casually bricks it with one hand while complaining about the volume. Talk about getting your ego mangled by an NPC who's clearly over this interaction. Watching his big moves whiff, this walking L decides to inflate his muscles like a discount carnival prop. He's really trying to buff his intimidation stats mid-fight, but it's just cringy. Major skill issue. The combat turns into a frantic mess of swings that lack any real flavor. Our protagonist just keeps yapping, clearly running a mental grocery list while he dismantling this absolute clown. Reality hits hard when the monster realizes his strongest form isn't even leaving a scratch. The bored ex-superhero just wants to finish this before his show starts, noting villains are tragically disposable. In a panic, the antagonist pulls out a sketchy, untested serum to inject his own hardware. He is basically hacking his own save file because he can't handle a fair trade. Total clown behavior. The drug kicks in, ballooning him into a spike-covered beast that thinks its aura points are finally S-tier. He's screaming about status while staring at a man who's handled real threats before morning coffee. Without working up a sweat, the blue-bladed veteran lops off that ugly arm like he's trimming a hedge. The look of pure shock on the beast's face is peak comedy. Negative aura. The severed limb just poofs back into existence, prompting the villain to cackle and drop a tired pop culture reference. He's trying so hard to stay relevant, but he's already been ratioed. Done playing with his dinner, our guy goes on the offensive to see if this monster can respawn faster than he can delete it. He views this entire terrifying transformation as a low-level grind. Suddenly, a blur of movement turns the poor guy into a literal punching bag. It's a total speedrun of an ass-whooping where the victim can't even track the frames. He's completely cooked. Crashing into the rubble, the loser is officially gassed and unable to keep up with a couch potato legend. Turns out God-tier power isn't about serums, it's about not being a tryhard. Down in the dirt, he foolishly brings up family and association threats, which is a one-way ticket to getting deleted. You can see the shift in the hero's eyes. The kid gloves just melted. Since he hung up his hero cape years ago, those bureaucratic rules against murdering annoying pests no longer apply. A golden glow surrounds his hand, signaling the end of this side quest. He whips out a massive, ornate blade that was hiding in plain sight, and the villain finally realizes he's staring at his own funeral. The realization was definitely the worst part. The aura hits Sub-Zero as a shadowy, red-eyed titan manifests behind our hero to end the show. The monster is trembling and honestly deserved. But before this absolute unit vaporizes him, let's see why the boss is crying in a basement. Inside a top-secret bunker that has all the personality of a damp basement, an incredibly mid-henchman with orange hair is on his knees begging for his life. His boss, a man with an eye patch who clearly spends way too much on villain costumes, is ripping him a new one because the assassination squad they sent turned out to be a complete waste of resources. The eye patch-wearing boss is absolutely fuming, pointing out that our guy outperformed everyone's expectations without even using his signature power-up. He starts barking orders about some upcoming deal, assuming that throwing more low-level NPCs at the problem will surely fix his failing villain-maxing career. Meanwhile, the scene shifts to an amusement park where our protagonist is being dragged through a total tutorial arc of joyless activities by his friends. He is strapped into a roller coaster, looking like he is about to lose his lunch, while the rest of the group is living their best life in this mid-tier side quest. After the ride, the group heads into a wooded area, and our guy is absolutely cooked, sagging under the weight of his own exhaustion. While his friend chirps about treats, he is physically manifesting the aura of a man who just wants to go home, delete his social accounts, and never be perceived by another human being again. He finally cracks, asking why they are inviting an assassination attempt by lounging in a public park of all places. His friend shuts him down immediately, basically telling him that her vibe check policy outweighs his safety concerns, proving that he is truly at the mercy of their chaotic friendship agenda. Stuck in his own head, he dwells on the fact that his apartment was recently violated by an uninvited guest, which is a major L for someone supposed to be hiding in plain sight. He is spiraling over the fact that a random goon called him gross, marking a new low in his hero career that is honestly pretty sad to witness. He starts fuming about wanting to fight the big boss of the hero organization, but he knows his current range is so limited he can barely reach the next zip code. He sighs, wishing his teleporting buddy was around to bail him out of this mess, further highlighting that he is effectively hard stuck in a support role right now. After debating the merits of supernatural disasters for a minute, his tracking device starts chirping like a malfunctioning microwave. He gives it a suspicious look while his friend shouts about lunch, creating the perfect setup for a disaster he is definitely not ready for. A sudden, ominous chill runs down his spine as he senses a total shift in the local atmosphere. His glasses, the ultimate symbol of his civilian cover, suddenly start sliding off his face, and he realizes he is genuinely, absolutely cooked. Flash cut to an intimate, ultra-cringe situation where our guy has somehow managed to physically stumble into his contact in the most awkward way imaginable. A girl named Dong Yi is now laughing hysterically at his sheer, unadulterated panic, which is a massive downgrade from his usual cool guy routine. Before he can even formulate a coherent excuse, she pulls out her phone to capture the moment for blackmail, followed by a flurry of physical abuse. He is just trying to survive the encounter without catching a charge or losing his dignity, but it is clear he is losing this exchange in every possible metric. Enter Miss Dong, the silver-haired mastermind who seemingly orchestrated this entire setup with the precision of a high-stakes player. Our protagonist finally realizes his spare glasses were planted on her, meaning he has been walking into a trap set by his own wardrobe malfunction. She holds the compromising photos like they are a winning lottery ticket, threatening to upload them to the internet if her demands aren't met. It is a classic move from a textbook manipulator, leaving her target looking like they are about to experience a full-system critical error. She pivot shifts to a moral argument, shaming her captive for the corruption running deep within their clan. It is a heavy, emotionally charged pivot that focuses on the ethics of being a hero, and for once, our guy is just standing there as a silent bystander to someone else's midlife crisis. The guilt is clearly eating her alive, as she openly questions her own identity and whether she can still claim the title of a hero. She begs for a moment to process the weight of this revelation, but her captor remains unmoved, keeping the pressure on the boiling point. Anyway, ignore her mid-crisis, because our guy is about to get absolutely cooked in 4K. Our guy is speedrunning life on extreme mode, dodging point-blank explosions in an alley while a masked clown demands surrender. It's like the dude missed the memo that he's essentially a final boss living a civilian side quest. He's currently stuck wrestling a muscle-bound jobber who clearly skipped leg day for arm day, while the powder keg enthusiast keeps tossing ordnance. Getting zero support while managing this demolition derby is a massive skill issue. Just when he's almost cooked, the protagonist turns into a human SWAT team, swatting away bombs like they're annoying house flies. Watching the bad guys realize they're fighting an absolute glitch in the game is total cinema. Later, back in a park, he's losing his mind over the lack of competence from his squad, serving them a giant L for leaving him to do the heavy lifting alone. It's wild how the main character gets stuck grinding solo while the party stays AFK. The crew finally links up, but instead of focusing, these NPCs are debating movie trailers like they aren't living through a thriller anime. It's hard to save the world when your party cares more about popcorn than the plot. Meanwhile, the boss's henchman is busy sweat-dropping in his office after hit list fodder tripped over their feet and lost the objective. It's embarrassing to fail a simple capture mission in a crowded city. The big bad doesn't even flinch, just sliding a photo of a high-ranking hero across the desk like he's ordering a side of fries. He's shifting the goalposts and force-feeding his lackey a new target since the last mission fumbled the bag. Back at the crib, our guy is lounging with professional-level boredom while his roommate inhales snacks instead of scouting threats. They're both vibing in the calm, totally clueless that the opposition has officially locked onto them. Suddenly, an ice-wielding hero kicks the door down just to chirp him about his height, a bold strategy for someone picking a fight with a literal powerhouse. She's got the aura of a drill sergeant and half the manners of a stray cat. She gets right to work roasting the team as a pack of useless perverts, turning the living room into a disaster zone of hurt egos. It's genuinely impressive how much negative aura one hero can dump into a shared space. Cutting the yap, she explains an objective involving a shady serum trade, the same plot as every mid-superhero flick. She clearly thinks she's the only one with a brain, while the rest are just decorative background assets. They start divvying up roles like they're planning a heist in a basement, putting the two most volatile personalities on the front lines against the bosses. It's classic strategy. Make the people who hate each other handle the most dangerous sector. Finally, the team gets word that the enemy base is folding due to an earthquake and an SS-ranked intervention, which might actually give them a chance. They're finally gaining XP, even if the opposition is just doing the work for them. But before bros can even farm that assist, these NPCs decide to crash out for real. Our guy and his crew are scouting the Peach Garden when the rival alliance shows up. They're clearly looking for a fight in the dark, and with a helicopter arrival this small, it's already looking like a total skill issue. The talk gets cut short when the Muscle Alliance decides to announce themselves with a chorus of screaming. The leader, Yatan, charges in with the grace of a drunk toddler, instantly nuking any hope of a quiet meetup. Everything descends into a messy arcade brawler as goons in neon armor start flailing their arms. A mysterious guy in black is moving so fast the game world clearly hasn't finished loading his textures yet, totally grabbing the antagonist's attention. Realizing the whole op is cooked, the antagonist tries to bounce before the lobby gets too toxic, but the president blocks the exit like he's hard stuck in bronze, screaming for backup to bail him out of his own mess. Suddenly, a heroine with massive crystal wings drops in to turn that chopper into spare parts with one flashy move. The explosion is basically just budget-wasting fireworks, forcing the antagonist to parkour for his life. The wreck hits the dirt with a thud that echoes across the map, and the president loses it, shouting for his missing teammate. He really spent his entire gold pool on a vehicle that didn't even survive the tutorial. Meanwhile, the main villain commander is losing his mind trying to micromanage a robot sniper. The machine just pivots in response, because why use your own brain when you have a pre-programmed hitman? The bot locks its crosshairs onto the winged girl who has zero clue she's the current target. It's a classic case of getting caught in a boss fight you didn't even know you clicked on. Bullets start hacking physics, bending in midair to tag the flyer before she can even dodge. An ally rushes over, but they're already taking heavy chip damage from this glorified toaster. Zero looks at the robot and realizes they're outscaled, so he pivots the game plan with the president. They decide to split the party to handle the two boss mobs, hoping they don't get ratioed before reaching the next save point. The lobby shifts to a new arena where some fighter is yapping about a solo carry against the whole team. A silver-haired lady is already charging up her frost aura, ready to crack the floor just to prove she isn't folding today. But before she can finish her job, our guy pulls up to farm some negative aura. Miss Dong is putting in massive hours on this icy tundra, but the action is flatter than a day-old soda. Our guy finally slides into frame, immediately catching static for jumping into a scrap he has no business being in. Tactical genius at work right here. The difficulty spikes hard, and suddenly his movement tech is about as effective as a paper umbrella in a hurricane. Watching him struggle to locate the invisible threat is peak mid-tier performance. Someone get this man a tutorial or delete his save. His sentient eyewear finally wakes up from its nap to run a diagnostic, acting like this intel wasn't available 10 levels ago. It's basically just system admin talk for finally handing over the actual stat menu. With the new vision active, the protagonist is suddenly playing 4D chess on a checkers board, calculating trajectories like a bored intern. He lunges at the girl to secure the objective while keeping a hard lock on the hidden main boss. He feeds the coordinates to his partner, and for once, the shot actually lands dead center. It's actually cracked performance for a guy who usually fumbles the bag before the opening credits even finish rolling. The smoke clears to reveal Red, a villain whose entire personality is just a neon glowing X. The sheer negative aura coming off this guy is enough to crash the game's servers, while our guy just stands there gaping. The boss doesn't even bother with a monologue, opting to turn our protagonist's face into a punching bag instead. Seeing him spit teeth after getting folded like laundry is just proof he is hard stuck in the starter zone. The villain starts yapping about a corporate-issued torture stamp that nerfs stats and cranks up the pain. It is the ultimate pay-to-win debuff, and our heroes are currently paying full price in agony. When that cannon comes out, the situation upgrades from a nuisance to a straight-up funeral. He's face down in the dirt, watching the muzzle flash while his plot armor realizes it's totally cooked. She shoves our hero aside with zero grace, desperate to stall for time while he's still essentially glitching on the floor. The villain lets her know her best attempt is basically just a trivial side quest. Ouch. Fueled by whatever protect my teammate Buffy found in the trash, he ignores his broken bones and launches a desperate punch at the armor. It's a galaxy brain move against a dude with a cannon, but strategy never was his strong suit. Now they are in a full-blown street scrap, trading hits while she screams for him to just quit and run. He is dumping his remaining stamina into smashing that weapon aside like he's actually going to win this. Battered and looking like a corrupted save file, he refuses to stay down no matter how much ice he eats. It's that legendary stubbornness that usually triggers a respawn, but here he's just taking a massive, unmitigated. As the final charge-up begins, she refuses to ditch her partner, choosing to stand by him like they are actually going to pull off a miracle. It is not just a game over, it is a total, catastrophic team collapse. But then Bro dropped the act, and these NPCs realized they were officially cooked. Lin Jai is treating this battle like a glorified tutorial, clowning on his opponent's cardio while effortlessly sidestepping every clumsy swing. It is like watching a seasoned pro bully a lobby full of bots. Skill issue. Thinking he can hack the match, the villain chugs a questionable syringe like a desperate gamer slamming energy drinks before a ranked set. He thinks it is a major buff, but he just triggered a mid-tier boss transition. Absolute cope. He mutates into a knockoff monstrosity, but the protagonist just sighs at the lack of originality. He charges into the fray without a shred of hesitation, ready to remind this reject why he should have stayed in the low-level spawn zone. Zero aura. They trade blows that move faster than the refresh rate, with our guy shifting stances to manifest a polearm that looks way too clean for this dump. He is swatting aside these telegraphed swings like they are nothing. Total wastage. He unloads on the guy, rightfully roasting him for thinking he could conduct twisted experiments on a child and still walk away clean. Every strike drips with disrespect, turning this into a blowout. His ego is officially cooked. Suddenly we cut to the clouds, where Miss Dong is tied up in a high-speed sky duel against a silver-haired antagonist spamming water constructs. She is dancing through the air, scrambling to find a gap in his annoying defensive script. Side quest activated. She finally lands a hit, but the guy just smirks like he is rocking pay-to-win armor that turns her best output into a tickle. That kind of gear is honestly embarrassing for the villainy industry. Negative aura points. Realizing her ranged spam is just buffing his stats, she abandons the safe play for some desperate close-quarters commitment. She is going all in on a risky gamble, leaving herself wide open while he just looms there looking smug. We are so over. The antagonist grabs her, acting like he is doing her a favor by offering an easy way out. She's not having any of that charity, firing off pure defiance to show him she is ready to make this lethal. Built different. She pulls off a massive Ice Lotus summon at point-blank range, catching him entirely off guard. That smirk vanishes into immediate panic. Turns out even the most expensive kit cannot save you from having zero situational awareness. Chat, look at the damage. Faced with an overwhelming gap, she screams for backup while flashing a cheeky wink, implying she has an extra move tucked away. She is betting the entire bracket on the cavalry arriving just in time. Let us see if our guy can secure the W. Spoiler alert, that backup ain't coming, and this absolute clown is about to get folded, chat. Our guy stands over the wreckage of a battlefield, staring down a man who clearly aimed for the main character position, but ended up a cautionary tale. While his companion looks shocked that their opponent hasn't respawned yet, it's clear the villain is currently just a background NPC with way too much health. The taunting starts, but before the boss can even land a hit, he begins a transformation that looks exactly like a budget action game failing to load. This man is huffing experimental serums like they're free samples, and the result is less terrifying force of nature and more someone who skipped every tutorial level. He finishes ballooning into a mass of spikes and questionable fashion choices that definitely cost more ego than actual power. He bellows about his stats, completely oblivious to the fact that his whole build is just a giant target for a protagonist who isn't even trying. Projectiles start flying everywhere, turning the room into a bullet hell segment that our protagonist is pathologically ignoring. The lady is busy tanking the hit, looking absolutely stunned by the raw output, while the aggressor is busy overacting like he's in the final scene of an award-winning flops fest. Then the hero casually steps into the frame with the energy of a librarian shushing a rowdy toddler. The enemy's jaw hits the floor because his S-rank output just got hard stuck against a guy who technically shouldn't even be on the local scoreboard. The counterblow that follows is less of a strike and more of a physics lesson, launching the armored monstrosity into the stratosphere. He's folded like a lawn chair, his face contorting in confusion as he realizes his entire reality just got patched out. As the fallen fighter frantically checks the game files, our guy drops the truth. His E-rank registration means his speed is basically a cheat code. It's hard to be a final boss when your opponent is running a completely different software version than the one you built for. The rage swinging is iconic, as the brute misses thin air while the victor pops up behind him with the grace of a lag spike. It's a masterclass in negative aura, watching someone burn their stamina on empty space while getting styled on by a spectator. Finally bored of the lobby, the windstreaker lands an efficient smack to end the show, mentioning a date with a magic girl show later. The loser is still trying to wrap his head around such a crushing defeat, but our lead has already mentally logged out to find better entertainment. That final strike hits with the subtlety of a falling asteroid, and the game over label pretty much sums up his entire career trajectory. He's an unconscious crater, leaving everyone to wonder if he'll ever manage to respawn from that kind of ego damage. The dust settles, and there's a moment of actual gravity as they discuss if the guy survived his own hubris. The comrade is left rethinking her whole life path, finally admitting that knowing his true level would have kept her from looking so incredibly cooked in the first phase. We cut to a new zone where a giant is practicing his villain monologue while holding someone hostage. The red-headed combatant isn't having any of it, though, and as our lead wanders into this side quest, it's clear the tension is about to get nuked from orbit. Despite being held moments ago, the captive breaks free just to take a swing at the nearest available source of conflict. Taking a clean hit to the face doesn't stop their screaming, and it's just pure comedy watching them try to hit someone who is light years ahead. The protagonist finally steps in, stopping the shouting match to deliver the classic, "You were never the hero, you're a side character" speech. It's cold and calculated, and honestly the captive has nowhere to go but into the hero's payroll. But before that W can even sink in, Bro is already back to his mid-tier snack break. Our guy is currently eating his way through a hospital room like an absolute NPC, while 13 stares at the wall, struggling to process life after being spoon-fed by Red. Total mood. An entourage bursts in with a maid-themed support character named Miss Step, who radiates pure second-hand embarrassment. The resident Chaos Monger immediately starts body-shaming her outfit, leaving his buddy to scream about his complete lack of basic human decency. Linzayo slides in to initiate a total romance side quest, leaning close with enough awkward energy to power a small city. Our guy is malfunctioning, stuttering hard while praying to the gaming gods for a skip dialogue button. She pivots to talking about some top-tier training grind sourced from heavy hitters, getting the bandaged boy hyped. Meanwhile, the lead looks like he just saw his favorite game get delisted from the store. Total skill issue. Selling the dream of reaching S-rank status, she acts like it's the ultimate endgame achievement. The room goes silent, but he just wants to go home and nap, completely zeroed out on ambition. Mental flashbacks show him speedrunning the leaderboard, yet reality crashes back in as Red starts mouthing over his refusal to grind. He's hard stuck in casual mode, actively avoiding the sweat-drenched meta. The squad attempts a reality check, rattling off scary high-tier guild stats to put his ego in check. He looks bored out of his mind, clearly failing his social interaction roles today. To silence the backseat gamers, he makes a high-stakes bet that he can easily solo the whole lobby. It's an open invite for them to get clowned on the rooftop. The duel lasts 2 seconds before the entire team gets dumped into the trash tier, looking like level 1 mobs fighting a raid boss. Absolute massacre, no survivors. As the dust settles, the recovery team arrives for the cleanup. Our guy just exits the scene with his maid in tow, moving to fetch his little sister while checking off his side quest list. Outside the academy, Mew Mew and a friend are staring at a stray puppy in a box. They're treating a simple pet choice like a tactical puzzle, totally oblivious to the main character approaching to flex his older brother vibes. Misreading his previous advice on getting rid of trouble, she actually tries to toss out the living dog like unwanted junk. Her friend looks like she's witnessing a core memory being deleted. Talk about fumbling the bag catastrophically. But before Bro could even process that L, his apartment decided to go full nuclear mode. Lin Xiao wakes up to a total apartment disaster zone, thanks to the local gremlin and a new puppy turning the living room into a chew toy graveyard. Talk about a brutal tutorial difficulty spike. The chaos hits a local record when the dog decides a pricey figurine is the perfect snack. Our guy gets grabbed by the collar for the damage, putting his aura in the negative digits. The roommate launches into a high school tier lecture on pet responsibility, while the dog owner sits there with fresh bumps on his head. Bro looks like he just speedrun a 1v5 and got absolutely ratioed. The dog gets a stay of execution, but it's headed to the lab for intensive training on the owner's dime. His wallet is looking pretty mid after that fine, so the grind for rent money starts now. Professor Chin and the family patriarch are acting like they're in a deep-freeze boss room as our guy drops off the canine recruit. The atmosphere is colder than a disconnected server. The lead researcher explains that Aoyang Zai Hao has been nerfed by a head injury, effectively frying his internal logic board. He's basically a bricked console waiting for a patch that isn't coming. A lavender-haired intruder saunters in with enough main character energy to power a city block. He's looking at the patient with total disdain, clearly thinking he's the peak of the talent pool. The newcomer tries to offer a weak apology for his siblings' mess, but the patriarch isn't buying this F-tier performance. He snaps back with enough heat to leave the guy looking rattled and rightfully cooked. Getting bored of the drama, the visitor forces a consultant with glasses onto the team to speedrun the recovery project. Trying to skip the grind in a side quest is a classic rookie move. Before dipping, he drops a generic threat about their lives being on the line if the work isn't done fast. Such a cringeworthy villain trope, you'd think the writing was written by a toddler. Strolling through the city center, our broke protagonist realizes he's got to farm some fast XP to recover from those repair bills. Wandering the streets, he's hunting for any random encounter. A shark-headed thug decides to start a terrorist side quest in the middle of the plaza. Not today, Shark Boy. Our guy leaps into the fray to start a one-sided beatdown. With one swift kick, he sends the baddie flying like a glitched NPC hitting a wall. The villain didn't even register the hit, proving once, and for all he had zero aura. Anyway, Bro's victory lap gets absolutely cooked the second he clocks a rat moving in the shadows. Lin Jai spots his cousin tailing him into a dusty alley, clearly looking for a reason to ruin his quiet life. He stops dead, turning around with the look of a man who's already tired of this boss-level's trash mob behavior. He doesn't mince words, basically telling her that her entire family is speedrunning their reputations by hiring thugs just to play hero for some pathetic social clout. It's a bold strategy to commit crimes just to look busy, but at least the comedy writes itself. Right in the middle of this masterclass in verbal demolition, the entire city decides to start vibrating with a massive, screen-shaking explosion. An unidentified A-class monster has crashed the party, and honestly, the timing is just rude. This giant, overhyped beast starts throwing a tantrum across the skyline, while the cousin is busy panic-scrolling instead of actually helping anyone. Watching a self-proclaimed elite hero go full NPC during a crisis is peak comedy. Our hero realizes he's stuck in a protection quest and decides to launch a high-speed projectile right at the monster to peel it off an innocent bystander. He's putting in the work because apparently nobody else on this map knows how to press their attack buttons. He literally jumps onto the creature's own fist, turning the final boss into a glorified jungle gym while taunting it midair. It's like he's playing against a tutorial monster with a keyboard made of butter. Lin Jai starts chaining rapid-fire combos right onto the beast's face, turning the creature's HP bar into a memory. It's less of a fight and more of a demonstration of why he's the only high-level player in a room full of level ones. While the monster is busy getting its face rearranged, its hand snakes out to snatch a falling girl, but our man is already there to catch her. He's speedrunning the heroics while everyone else is still loading into the lobby. He shields the girl, tossing some trash talk at his cousin about how they aren't going to faint just because things got slightly spicy. The beast is telegraphing a massive attack, but it's just desperate posturing at this point. A beam of pure energy tears through the air, forcing the overgrown fuzzball to desperately throw up a hand to stop it. It's hard to look scary when you're literally hiding behind your own palm like a toddler playing peekaboo. He dances around the beast's last bit of offense and delivers a strike so clean it basically uninstalls the monster from reality. The creature hits the floor, and just like that, the main quest threat gets deleted. Lin Zio starts chirping about the press coming to cover the heroics, but our guy is already walking away like he just logged off a server. He has zero interest in farming clout when a simple trip to the airport is on the agenda. Transitioning to the airport, he's immediately swarmed by an army of fawning disciples who are way too obsessed with his social presence. It's like landing in a server filled with players who only care about his username and stats. The crowd is going wild trying to decide on a nickname for him, while everyone else is whispering about the arrival of the legendary 13. He honestly couldn't care less about the fanfare, just trying to navigate the terminal. 13 decides to make one of those ridiculous floaty entrances, acting like they've been besties for life. It's pure brain rot on display as they gloat about their gear, and honestly, we're just here for the free loot. But that loot hunt ends quick once our guy hits this absolute mid-tier NPC convention. The local hero association has turned into a dive bar. Our guy is sipping a drink, while the resident glutton treats the floor like an all-you-can-eat buffet. It's a total snooze fest, with everyone waiting for an election delayed longer than a buggy indie game launch. Miss Dong marches into the lobby like a disappointed parent at a frat party. She's clearly not thrilled that the elite guard is slurping soup instead of saving the day. Talk about mid-energy for a group of supposed legends. When the lady tries to shame them, the group just doubles down on the chaos. They drag her into their hot pot circle like a hostage, essentially nuking her professional standing in real time. Talk about a forced collaboration. Silence falls as the new chairman stalks in with goons who definitely spent too long at the gym. He radiates such forced main character energy it's actually painful to watch. The guy thinks he's cinematic, but he's just loud. He starts bloviating about the burden of his office. Meanwhile, our protagonist critiques the weird liquid they're all eating, which is apparently just healing medicine disguised as lunch. The lack of chill in this building is record-breaking. The vibe shifts from awkward dinner to looming disaster the second someone bait questions the girl. She does a terrible job of masking her nerves with that guy looming behind her like a bad omen. Aura points plummeting. In a private corner, the corporate overlord grabs his sibling by the face, demanding she clean up the family mess alone. Watching her tearfully agree is peak dysfunctional drama. He's just bullying his own bloodline now. Suddenly, the boss man pivots to a fake corporate recruiter persona. He walks up to the table with a soulless grin, trying to buy loyalty by name-dropping our lead. He's definitely done his homework, but the glazing is reaching lethal levels. The pitch dies instantly when our guy tells him to touch grass and stay out of his business. The chairman just laughs off the disrespect, mocking his speech patterns like a salty gamer. Having a spine is apparently illegal here. Gravity just deletes itself. The boss goes full psychic mode, forcing the entire room to the floor with zero warning. Seeing these high-tier veterans drop like brain-dead NPCs is wild. Our guy looks like he's just enduring a bad sneeze. It's forced kneeling for the squad, and the big hitters are basically scrub-brushing the carpet now. Straining against the lock, even our hero realizes the tutorial boss just activated a pay-to-win ability. Skill issue, activated. Then, in a move that shocked absolutely no one, our guy just flexes out of that mental dungeon and sends the chairman flying into next week. Brute force is still the GOAT solution for anyone with a god complex. The target eventually stops flying and coughs up blood, finally realizing his power scaling wasn't quite as godly as he thought. He's still laughing like a clown, but the power dynamic just had a hard reset. Absolute cinema. Near the exit, the siblings get back to their toxic family therapy. She calls him out for being a psychopath, but he shuts it down with the toxic charm of a final boss who needs a massive reality check. As the bodyguards scramble to mop up their boss, the party beats a quick retreat, They're rightfully terrified, specifically because even the strongest tank got flattened in a heartbeat. This isn't a side quest anymore, it's the real grind. But leave it to our guy to immediately fumble the bag with the most mid-energy imaginable. Our guy is acting like a day trader at the racetrack, pointlessly hyping up a horse that looks like a literal pile of sticks. He's trying to convince his skeptical buddy and a confused gal that this is a galaxy brain play. Talk about a massive reach. His friend calculates that betting on a disaster will basically jinx the whole track into a rigged loss for everyone else. Our guy celebrates with a fist bump, while the poor girl is sweating like she's about to lose her life savings on a speed run to bankruptcy. The bell rings and the race is a complete circus. Two horses crash in a total skill issue, turning the dirt into a demolition derby. Our protagonist is yapping at the screen, but his pony is just dodging the pileup like a pro gamer. The scrawny beast actually clutches, clearing the junk heap while the others eat dust. Just when it looks like a clean win, the girl freezes up. She's feeling some serious negative aura radiating off the track. Suddenly, a giant flaming entity spawns mid-race, screaming about divine judgment like the main boss just crashed the server. Everyone is bailing, and the girl is hiding under her seat praying for a respawn that isn't coming. The stadium is burning down and his buddy is weeping over the lost scratch, literally asking for a manager. Meanwhile, our guy pivots to full aggro, grabbing a baseball bat with the energy of a man who's about to start a speed run against a god. He charges the flaming mess, swinging that would like he's clearing out a lobby of low-tier NPCs. The giant creature just mocks him, seemingly bulletproof to his wooden stick of justice. Talk about a nerf. But our guy keeps click-spamming his attack, turning the fight into a mindless grind. The boss starts shrinking in real time, looking genuinely shook that a civilian with a bat is actually shredding its health bar. The monster is now sized like a roach and fleeing for its pathetic life, while our guy chases it down to finish the combo. Watching from the sidelines, the girl decides staying hidden is the better play than joining this absolute beatdown. We shunt to a spooky dimension where the tiny failure kneels before a mysterious bigwig. A magic mirror shows our hero, and the entity is sweating, clearly realizing this human is built different than the script suggested. Turns out the whole Ragnarok endgame got a stealth patch, and humanity didn't even get the memo. The universe is hard stuck resetting its own destiny because some random dude decided to disrupt the main timeline. Now these cosmic entities are considering a player versus admin intervention to stop this behavior. They're comparing our guy to some ancient troublemakers who kept breaking the system, wondering if this is another timeline glitch they need to prune. Anyway, let's see if this NPC scientist is actually cracked or just totally mid-chat. Deep in a sterile lab, Professor Chin babysits a robot hound like she's managing a low-budget science fair project, until a corporate suit named Dong Yang waltzes in to act like he owns the floor. The room goes dead silent when the metal stray starts speedrunning a pile of textbooks. Seeing a toaster learn to read is absolute brain rot, yet these two act like they've seen weirder things in a basement. She tries to build rapport with her creation, but the interloper gets completely iced out by the tech. Watching a guy with no riz get humbled by an appliance is peak cinema. Ratioed. They trade some mid-corporate jargon about medical breakthroughs that sound like a malfunctioning NPC generator. The visitor keeps yapping about peak performance stats, while the creator just takes the heat. He wraps up his tour with a cryptic, "Stay alert," ominous enough to make anyone feel like they're being spawn-camped. That project is effectively cooked. Suddenly we're outside, where the protagonist Lin Jai drags our researcher out of the bushes like he's running a kidnapping quest. He warns her the whole district is about to get a server wipe thanks to a stupid clan feud. She refuses to ditch her post, showing more backbone than an average back row character. Giving up, our guy sends out an S-tier signal for backup, then sprints off to solo the incoming raid. His reinforcements finally show up, but it's just Red and a buddy more concerned with their busted gambling luck than the impending boss fight. Negative aura. While they're mouthing over lost cash, they stumble on a skulking spy casing the joint. 13 goes full Giga Chad, pouncing on the intruder before she can even glitch out of reach. The tension vanishes when the squad starts waving a stick around like toddlers playing Knight. Red interrupts this clown fiesta, apparently deciding today isn't the day to catch a case for bullying. A random bald henchman wanders into the fray, totally confused by the circus atmosphere. He tries to initiate a boss encounter, but he's basically walking into a meat grinder. The spy isn't going down without a fight, unleashing a blast of energy that turns the hallway into a strobe light rave. It's over for the local power grid. Through the thick smoke, our fighter just keeps clashing while the squad members remark on the casual combat efficiency. It's like watching an S-rank carry a team of bottom feeders. The lobby gets absolutely wrecked by a flurry of combos until the henchman winds up hard stuck in the dirt. These side quests never leave a single crumb of dignity behind. But Bro's celebration was premature, and his L streak was only just getting started, chat. Dong Yang stares at a phone screen that's delivering the worst news of his corporate career, realizing his secret meeting with Lin Wan didn't go unnoticed. His goons were found hung up like literal lawn ornaments, and the women on his team got put through a ringer that definitely wasn't in their job description. He doesn't just lose his cool. He literally cratered his office wall like it was made of wet tissue paper, finally connecting the dots to the only person with the motive to wreck his operation. He gathers his last remaining shreds of pride and tells his driver to pedal to the metal toward the sanctuary housing his main objective. Inside the lab, the man previously known as Zero is treating his latest covert op like a mid-tier grocery run, casually chatting with Red about how they scrubbed their victims' memories clean. The local genius, Doctor. Technically, the dog has decided his last name is now O, and he's clearly tired of these NPCs wasting his intellectual potential. He goes full-on savage mode, pouncing on some random victim while the doctor screams in pure confusion because no one told her the local stray was gonna be a scholar. Toto proceeds to crack open a milk bottle with the finesse of a seasoned pro, proving he's definitely the only one in the room with more than 2 digits of IQ. Our guy barely notices the canine revolution, instead handing the doctor a shiny gold trigger, telling her she's officially on speed dial if she ever manages to trip over her own feet. She tries to argue that her fancy lab is a fortress of science, but the protagonist decides the tutorial arc is over and forcefully drags her toward the exit. It's less of a rescue and more of a kidnapping for her own good, ignoring her protests as he puts her safety over her precious research data. 2 days later, Lin Jai is doing the real grind, trying to fix his crusty, laggy surveillance gear while his rank in his favorite game tanks harder than his social life. Meanwhile, his target's literal roof is caving in, turning a nice suburban home into a pile of structural failure. He spots his old acquaintance Miss Dong waltzing out into the night, only to get boxed in by a car that looks like it cost more than his entire town's GDP. Ouyang Zai Hao steps out of the shadows, flanked by masked goons, and gives a smug nod in the direction of the camera like he's inviting our guy to a boss fight he's totally underleveled for. The villain starts spewing the classic, "You're my property now" dialogue, clearly convinced that his social standing entitles him to drag her into his luxury ride. She's staring back with a face that screams she'd rather be literally anywhere else, but the antagonist is huffing his own ego supplements and just won't take a hint. He wraps his meat hooks around her face, trying to lecture her on the benefits of obedience training, like he's a low-budget career coach for captives. She calls his clan a dumpster fire of human decency, but the only thing stopping him from rearranging her features is a weird self-imposed rule about not denting the merchandise before the big party. He's dragging her toward the sedan like a sack of potatoes, and she's already reaching the point of, "I'd rather respawn than deal with this guy's banter." Just as the situation reaches maximum cringe, a group of dudes decides to crash the scene and tell the bad guy to drop the loot. Yatan and the Muscle Alliance arrive to put the villain in his place, immediately pinning his goons to the floor with some spicy shadow-clamping tech that doesn't mess around. The antagonist looks surprised that he's actually being countered by people who clearly didn't get the memo about his status. After catching a slap for his trouble, the kidnapper puts on his best, "Know who I am" villain smile, and drops his name like it's supposed to make them all spontaneously combust. The heroes are basically sweating bullets, and our girl is forced to confirm she's apparently engaged to this walking ego trip just to keep the others from being turned into human paste. But before any wedding bells ring, this man is about to get reality checked harder than an NPC. Our hero thinks he is the main character, but he is just busy slapping glorified Roombas that clearly didn't get the memo. He is trying to shield his VIP from these junk-tier bots, even though his teammate is low-key stressing that these things are actually cracked. His punches are landing with all the impact of a wet paper towel, proving he is hard stuck in the tutorial zone while his partner has a full-on meltdown in the back. Watching her treat a flying bolt like a final boss is high-tier cringe. Fed up with the whining, he just mutes the lady so he can focus on this failing extraction mission. It is a massive fumble, especially once some unseen goons snatch her up like she is nothing but an NPC quest objective. The room becomes a scrap metal factory when an energy blast turns the hallway into a crater. He clearly forgot to check his defensive stats, because getting nuked by a basic mob is absolute negative aura. Mid-explosion, he starts yapping about some secret ability while getting chewed out by his flame-throwing fiancé for being a subpar martyr. It is basically a reality TV drama happening inside a war zone, and the cringe is dealing more damage than the actual fire. Suddenly, a gothic reject crawls out of the shadows and catches a bullet with his bare hand like he is in a budget movie. Our boy is shaking, because his situational awareness is clearly running on power save mode. He tries to act all Sigma with a void tech threat, but the edgy Spectre is barely even trying to dodge. The villain takes a hit to the chest, though it looks like he is just bored rather than actually pressured. The girl is begging for her life, which is a total mood, and the antagonist actually agrees to stop the heat. But our guy decides to land a cheap shot on the way out anyway, because no win is too petty in this economy. Chaos breaks out as the robots go full exterminator mode, but then the local dog walker strolls in like he is hitting up a coffee shop. The sheer unbothered energy he brings to a literal massacre is honestly peak. The new arrival starts dismantling the bots, but since they respawn faster than trash mobs in a starter dungeon, he realizes his loadout needs an upgrade. He has that look of a pro ready to speedrun the entire server. He summons a legendary blade that turns the hallway into a furnace, and the AI finally starts pinging danger as their circuits begin to fry. It turns out bringing a campfire to a hardware fight was a major skill issue for the machines. He is slicing through these metal husks like they are made of dry tissue paper, making all that earlier struggle look like a comedy skit. The system is spamming emergency alerts, but it is way too late to stop the delete button. Every swing just clears the board, leaving nothing but burning scrap and a very confused audience. It is a god-tier flex to be jumping through flames while the lobby is being successfully spawn-camped. Survivors are finally legging it because their AI finally realized they were hitting way above their weight class. Back at the control center, a mysterious viewer is having an it's-over moment while reality-checking their failed investment. The lady finally recognizes the legend holding that glowing sword, leaving the whole crew staring with their jaws on the floor. It is a long walk home once they realize they were just background noise in his actual main story quest. But before he can start flexing, Bro has to check on his cooked teammate in the ICU. Our hero checks on 13, who managed to respawn in a hospital bed looking like a mummified mess. The squad hovers around, clearly realizing their bro is hanging onto life by a single strand of plot armor. The moment those bandages twitch, the patient starts screeching that Oh Yang nabbed the girl. Watching the protagonist try to choke back his rising blood pressure while digging for intel is pure comedy. Talk about a total skill issue in crisis management. He drops a dramatic vow of revenge like he's in some bargain bin anime, but the local equipment immediately starts glitching to ruin his vibe. Our guy pivots from a legendary savior to a glorified repair tech. What a downgrade. Back at home base, the squad gets a reality check while the leader starts sweating buckets. He's crunching the stats on why they're all basically destined to get ratioed by the clan that deleted the Muscle Alliance like they were nothing. Red kicks off a speech about fear being a mental glitch, trying to hype up the crew. While their captain is busy having a full-blown meltdown and soaking his shirt, the rest of the gang looks like they might actually fall for the mid-tier pep talk. Jiao Shin-sama ruins the awkward silence, bursting in with blue hair and enough main character energy to power a city. She's clearly angling for an invite to the clown show, and honestly, she has way more aura than the shivering wreck mid-room. They decide to dive headfirst into this suicide mission despite being hard stuck in the bottom tier of power. Realizing they're flying blind, they go hunting for a hacker who can actually find them a map. At the setup, Step sits there with a dog and admits she already pried the clan's security open like a bag of chips. She serves up the floor plan to a bewildered crowd. Corporate espionage has never looked so easy. The intel comes with a catch. The enemy is throwing an engagement party tomorrow night. The villains are so blinded by their own ego that they're sitting on the prisoner like a trophy, a move that screams peak hubris. Our protagonist starts short-circuiting again, ready to rush into the meat grinder like a brain-rotted golden retriever. His teammates have to physically bench him while they scramble to draft a plan that doesn't end in their instant deletion. The blue-haired volunteer demands her spot, while the leader grudgingly sorts the roster for this field trip of a heist. Even the purple-haired wallflower shows up just for the drama, making a coordinated strike look like a total schoolyard mess. But before that dumpster fire fully ignites, our guy shifts to even worse vibes. Miss Dong is acting like a sacrificial side quest item in the guest room, while her childhood friend has a mental breakdown over the trash tier choices leading them here. Then the local final boss, Aoyang, kicks the door down acting like he pays the mortgage. only to find our guy just chilling like he's waiting for a takeout order. The villain tries to flex with a threat, but instead gets ratioed by a girl with more aura than his entire scripted monologue, making him look like a tutorial-level mob. He gets desperate and grabs her arm, trying to bring up legendary blade-swinging feats like the guy is actually impressed by his low IQ posturing. The antagonist starts yapping about ancient blacksmith lore, forcing everyone to endure a mandatory history lecture that absolutely nobody clicked on for their playthrough. He pins her down to escalate the cringe, unaware he's fumbled the bag and is currently speedrunning his own negative aura arc. Outside the gates, the masked ally prepares to hack the mainframe while our main character gets ready to turn this high-security mansion into a pile of scrap. The sidekick shows off a demonic fit and a budget crescent blade that looks like it was scavenged from a dumpster-tier cosplay event. They crush the power grid with zero effort, leaving the guards hopelessly lost without their precious internet and security protocols. In the middle of the blackout, the protector friend spots the masked intruder, resulting in a chaotic misunderstanding that the protagonist has to fix. The childhood buddy is still screaming about lava floors, while the other dude keeps yap-spewing about being on the good team. Honestly, peak brain rot. They pivot to a split-screen strategy where the masked enthusiast holds off the trash mobs, so the lead can sprint to the objective. The sidekick starts channeling some over-the-top martial arts, likely hoping the cringe will kill the enemies faster than an actual combat move. He lands a devastating mosaic punch that deletes the guards from existence, turning them into pure abstract art for being so hard stuck on defense. With the hallway cleared of low-level XP farms, the fighter struts away to find his next target while checking his own reflection. Inside, the protagonist finally drops the cloak to shock the girl, who never expected him to bypass the heavy security like it was nothing. She immediately spams ice powers to keep him back, proving she's still mouthing over how dangerous the situation is for our guy. He just walks through her deep freeze with enough plot armor to ignore the sub-zero temperatures and tells her she's not staying behind. The girl finally breaks down in a rare moment of vulnerability, and he catches her hand, signaling it's time to stop the tragedy. She cries about her lost future, but he shuts that cope down instantly. The villain's plan is cooked, and nobody is getting sacrificed today. Anyway, he really thought the W was secured before promptly getting his aura absolutely nuked. Our guy is catching his breath in a junkyard disaster zone, looking like he just speedrun a marathon in work boots. The villain stands over him, staring blankly as if he can't believe the protagonist decided to stop tryharding and revert to his standard form. It's a total skill issue on the boss's part, but he's still yapping like he owns the place. Suddenly, the antagonist strolls in to lecture everyone on wedding etiquette, radiating more negative aura than a server that just got hard stuck in a lag loop. Back in the back, the bride is gripping her hands like she's already mentally checked out of this side quest, clearly over the main character energy clogging up her big day. They decide to settle this with a duel, because this timeline lacks a single brain cell to avoid a formal throwdown over some legendary loot. Linjai signs off on these trash terms without checking the fine print, basically forgetting he's facing a guy backed by an entire clan of toxic NPCs. The squad wanders through a garden path, with the purple-haired girls screaming at the glasses-wearing boy as if yelling will magically save their mission. Arriving at the stadium feels like walking into a corporate board meeting, with all the old-timers perched in the VIP section like they're waiting for a dividend payout. The primary antagonist takes center stage, announcing his petty stakes with the confidence of a final boss who definitely hasn't read the script for his own defeat. A barrier goes up to protect the bougie seats from collateral damage, and the ego-tripping dude enters the circle using only his finger, peak try-hard behavior. Sparks fly as their weapons collide, creating a massive shockwave that finally gives the animation budget something meaningful to do. The boss starts spraying energy blasts like a glitchy water hose. Our guy just weaves through the mess as if he's playing the tutorial on easy mode. The pacing hits lightspeed until he's just a blur, leaving his opponent swinging at thin air and wondering where his combo meter went. A massive boom rocks the floor, and the glasses-wearing bystander starts sweating buckets, terrified his boss cares more about floor tiles than employee safety. He takes a massive hit to the face, only to reveal some invisible particle armor that completely invalidates the last minute of combat effort. The intensity ramps up until something in the foundation begins to crack, proving that someone is definitely getting cooked here, and it isn't his health bar. Finally, the arrogant challenger lands a few punches, but our hero just smiles, waiting for the exact moment to flip the script on this one-sided beatdown. But bro is about to get cooked once the real aura check finally hits the lobby. Lin Jai drops in with a blue dragon spear that's giving every background NPC negative aura. He's putting on a masterclass that has onlookers staring like they just saw a ghost in a business suit. Our guy slashes hard, dedicating the hit to 13 like he's finally settling a tab. The target is screaming in a register that suggests his health bar is speedrunning a 0. Wang Zihao decides his best strat is to stand there and accept fate while a giant cyan energy blade drops from the clouds. It's almost impressive how fast a final boss candidate can fumble the bag. The floor explodes into shrapnel, effectively turning the arena into a sight disaster. Watching him delete those defenses like it's a tutorial boss is honestly peak cinema, ratioed. Meanwhile, the president holds onto Miss Dong like he's securing the last item in a clearance sale. She's pleading to break away, but he's clearly committed to being the most annoying NPC in this server. The antagonist is whining about his outfit getting ruined, which is the ultimate sign of someone with 0 aura left. The hero just keeps pummeling him, showing everyone that this fight is just a chores list. Trying to cough his way to a victory speech, the rival is clearly hard stuck in the losing lane. Our guy is just chilling, pulling out a golden cylinder that's going to put a period on this entire event. A ribbon defense spirals out, triggering explosions that are doing absolutely nothing to stop the inevitable. It's the kind of over-engineered garbage that gets shredded by a player with actual skill. Outside the house, the villains are busy reviewing their scroll-based backup plan like they're reading a faulty manual. The cope is off the charts. Looking skyward, the group watches as the hero looms over the wreckage like he's checking his own stats. She's cheering from the sidelines, finally seeing the guy who's actually carrying the team. With one final, precise strike, the protagonist shatters the remaining scraps of armor. It's a clean break, proving that every piece of gear in this dungeon is essentially made of wet paper. The move finally finishes the job, leaving the former tough guy looking like he lost a fight with a laundry machine. Giving the move an edgy name is the cherry on top for this absolute beatdown. Miss Dong rushes in for the reunion, seemingly forgetting that the main villain is still standing there acting salty. He immediately pivots to the Research Institute, proving he's at least good at bad ideas. Just as the dust settles, he triggers a swarm of robots to crash the party, ignoring all rules of engagement. Back to grinding trash mobs we go, because letting our guy have one win is apparently too much to ask. But before he can even farm these NPCs, Bro's comms start bugging out with top-tier cringe. Lin Zio panics over the radio because some office raid turned into a lethal survival flick. Our guy keeps his chill, telling the boss not to sweat the lobby-tier trash mobs. Absolute icon of zero stress. He drops into the fray and instantly vaporizes a giant metal menace threatening his sibling. He gives the remaining scrubs 5 minutes of living allowance before he scrubs them from the server. Total skill gap. Dashing forward with main character energy, he mocks the guards for their pathetic engagement speed. It is a tutorial-level mob rush, but for him, it is just a casual walk in the park, hard stuck in bronze lobby vibes. The corporate hardware shifts into a bulky upgrade, likely costing more than it's worth. He stares at the flashing transformation like it is a buggy software update he's forced to wait through. Mid-tier boss behavior. The scrap pile triggers a massive barrage, turning the local lobby into an insurance nightmare while the mastermind behind the controls starts sweating. Looks like somebody messed up the revenue projection. Massive negative aura. Dodging incoming fire as if it's automated spam, he mocks the lack of damage output. With one clinical strike, he turns the overpriced hunk of junk into fancy scrap metal. The lightsaber versus paper cutter diff is real. Looking down at the smoldering wreckage, he makes the terrified commander realize this whole event was a total waste of bandwidth. Meanwhile, behind the lab doors, the real headache starts brewing. Sightseeing hours are officially over. A smug antagonist strolls into the research hub, ready to download his ego into the network. This clown is speedrunning his own demise, treating a dangerous mental link like a free community skin. Giga-cringe entry. Kicking the door off its hinges, the protagonist warns the facility staff that their new guest is actually a high-tier mental threat. Turns out they invited the final boss right into their living room. Talk about a lobby exploit. The intruder exploits some psychic malware, trapping the sister in a mental cage to force a stalemate. Seeing an S-rank user resort to cheap crowd control moves really highlights his trash-tier personality. The salt levels are rising. Even through the brain-frying static, the hero refuses to fold under the pressure. Panicking at the malfunction, Professor Chin gets ready to overload the brain booster to reset the lobby. It is a desperate last-ditch play. The machine whines with a death-defying buzz as the experiment hits critical mass. He lunges through the chaos, praying he can pull the plug before the whole thing melts down into hot garbage. We are so cooked. But before he can even wipe his sweat, another mid-tier NPC pulls up to get clowned. President Aoyang corners our guy to sweat through a confession about the ancient race, desperately trying to walk back some ancient beef. It is typical power-scaling cringe, as he realizes crossing the protagonist is a one-way path to getting ratioed, hard stuck in F-tier energy. They resolve to dump the marriage deal like outdated DLC, while the old man shakes waiting for his secret to stay buried. He thinks he is playing 4D chess, but he is really just trying to avoid being the next trash mob speedrun off the map. Skill issue. Before the executive can even finish his lecture, our hero dips, burning rubber toward the next objective without a second glance. It's wild how fast he ghosts, leaving the wealthy elite talking to a brick wall while he grinds for real XP. Side quest mode activated. Across town, the research facility is hitting peak anime climax visuals, and Lin Wan is in a fatal freefall until a savior swoops in like an S-tier delivery drone. Meanwhile, the sister wanders the storm oblivious that the entire site is about to become a dumpster fire. Zero situational awareness. The whole situation goes sideways because one guy decided to chug experimental serums until his brain overclocked like a cheap rig. The heavy equipment cracks under the pressure, signaling that a final boss is spawning into the lobby. Total screen shake imminent. An ominous glowing cocoon begins fracturing, so the clan leader rushes in for some pathetic damage control as the scene hits critical mass. Our protagonist steps up, flexing that main character energy while staring down a problem that clearly didn't get the memo about being balanced. It's over. He doesn't wait for a countdown, launching a massive strike that shatters the structure into literal confetti while yelling for the NPC crowd to take cover. It is a screen-clearing move meant to keep the teammates from catching stray debris. Peak cinema. The smoke clears to reveal a newly bald and aggressively ripped villain who radiates so much S-rank aura that everyone nearby looks like low-level trash. The terrified girl watches her problems evolve in real time. Definitely negative aura levels on display here. While the squad sits around theory-crafting the antagonist's new stat sheet, our guy decides he will just solo the boss while everyone watches from the sidelines. It is a bold move to volunteer for the carry since the enemy looks like he finished a legendary training montage. Glazing in progress. A team of lackeys jumps in hoping for a lucky hit, but the new boss stands still like he's playing with enabled invincibility frames. It is a complete wipe for the fodder squad, and honestly I have seen better effort from training dummies. Cooked. Anyway, the LS keeps stacking, because this main character syndrome-pilled loser is just getting started. This self-proclaimed deity is out here flexing maximum negative aura, screaming for everyone to bow while blasting shockwaves like a fanboy at a rock concert. Commanding worship while everyone is busy cleaning his clock is certainly a bold choice. It's pretty clear this man is deep down the main character syndrome hole and forgot to look for the exit sign. Talk about a massive. The camera pans to everyone face-planting after catching that wave of pure cringe, and honestly, it looks like a server-wide wipe after a botched raid. It's tough to maintain any dignity while getting ragdolled across the map by a guy who definitely rehearses his villain monologues in the mirror wearing a bath towel cape. Simply embarrassing. Back in his basement-tier void, the bargain bin god is yapping about knowing everyone's deepest secrets, but he's really just playing house with his collection of NPCs. Miss Dong and her squad are stuck kneeling in a line, looking like they're waiting for the bus in a game that finished rendering 3 years ago. Total side quest energy. Floating in the sky like he's waiting for a patch update to fix his broken mechanics, the antagonist locks eyes with our guy, who is just standing there vibing on some debris. It's the classic showdown between a dude who thinks he's playing 4D chess and the absolute unit who didn't even read the tutorial manual. Absolute cinema. When the villain starts mouthing because his mind reading isn't working, you know it's a severe skill issue. Our hero doesn't even break a sweat, just roasting the guy's hairline and asking if he's a bit young to be balding. He even ignores the kneeling crowd as if they were nothing more than background clutter. Ratioed. Since the chirping failed, the big bad pulls out a giant spiritual tiger like he's trying to summon a legendary beast in a low ELO lobby. He's dumping all his stats into visual effects, while the protagonist is just patiently waiting for the iframes to expire. He thinks this is the final boss, but he's really just NPC fodder. In one clean motion, the hero ignores the flashy cat to smack the villain right in the ego, drawing actual blood and shattering that fragile god complex. It turns out the guy who was preaching about divinity is genuinely terrible at dodging a basic punch to the face, not even S-tier. Realizing he's getting cooked in real time, The antagonist pivots to spamming literal floor garbage as projectiles to try and close the distance. Watching him panic throw debris is giving me heavy, fumbled the bag in the final circle vibes. He's absolutely malding now, and it shows. The sky lights up with more energy beam spam than a malfunctioning console, but the protagonist just weaves through the chaos like he's playing a rhythm game on easy mode. It's truly impressive how much effort the villain is putting into missing his target. He's basically wasting his entire mana pool for nothing. Closing the gap instantly, our guy grabs that smug face, finally cutting the monologue short so he can head home before his dinner gets cold. The screams of pain are a nice touch, but it's mostly just the sound of a guy who finally realized he shouldn't have stepped into the main lane. We are so back. He materializes a glowing sword to settle the score, making it clear he's done playing nice with the local neighborhood menace. He is ready to wrap up this filler arc and finally touch some grass, leaving the defeated villain to wonder exactly where his build went wrong. Absolutely mid throughout. But before Bro can even celebrate, the real boss enters the chat with massive negative aura. 7 years ago, a massive serpent wakes from its nap to ruin everyone's day, coiling through the sea like an oversized garden hose and shattering ancient seals like cheap plastic wrap. World leaders panic and unload their entire nuclear stockpile, but it's basically a light massage for the beast. Farming negative aura with explosives is a classic rookie mistake, chat. The monster flattens the fortress walls like wet napkins, leaving the defenders searching for a respawn point that isn't coming. Then, through the toxic smog, Lin Jai steps up to handle this side quest. The creature roars like it has a point to prove, but our guy ends the scene with one clean slice. It's total decapitation, turning a world-ending event into a pile of oversized sashimi. The hero stands on the carcass like he's just cleared the tutorial, while an armor-clad bald man watches in disbelief. He's clearly realizing his entire life's work just got ratioed by a guy in a cloak. Cut to the present, the sky is full of static as a mysterious warrior blurs between lightning bolts. The antagonist starts yapping about his godhood, but his aura is looking mid at best. With every swing of that red glowing blade, the defensive barriers fold like dirty laundry under pressure. The loudmouth tries to trade hits, but he's clearly hard stuck in a lower league. The villain summons a gargantuan blue energy giant from out of nowhere, looking like a budget summoner trying to compensate. He's scratching his head as if this is casual, telegraphing a massive L. The protagonist pulls out a dark, gloomy technique that deletes all light from the map, showing us what actual endgame content looks like. It's a veteran move that ignores every cheesy trick. Lost in the pitch black, the arrogant fighter throws desperate commands at a wall. With a simple flick of the wrist, the zeroth form delivers pure misery before the guy can blink. The impact sends him flying, coughing up blood like he just failed a math test he didn't study for. Our man offers a surrender option, which is the polite way to say he's cooked. That ego is just too massive to let him quit, so he charges back in, only to get slammed by the first form. It's a masterclass in getting humbled by an explosive wake-up call. The air shrieks as the impacts shatter the landscape, proving that even a god complex doesn't fix a total skill issue. They're shredding the environment like a blender on high speed. The fight reaches cosmic proportions, with an explosion visible from orbit. Both combatants plummet through the atmosphere like two meteors that forgot to check their flight paths. The fabric of space gives up and starts tearing, dumping the bald antagonist into a void he wasn't prepared to handle. That look on his face is pure. I didn't read the manual energy. Acknowledging this fight as a half-decent warm-up, the hero primes a second form that sounds like a death sentence. The villain finally accepts his whole world domination arc was just bad fanfiction. Bro really thought he cooked, but the actual massacre was only just getting started. Our guy just folded his opponent like a discount lawn chair, leaving the baddie to admit his total L watching the main character stare at the rubble of a flattened town, while lamenting the lost civilians is pure mood. He's got more cleanup work than a janitor in a frat house. Ratioed. He demands the source of that bottom-tier power, but the loser tries a mental hack job to get answers. It's like watching someone with dial-up internet try to download an entire server from a gigabit speedrunner. Pure cope. Seeing a peek of those memories is probably the ultimate jump scare, making the villain look like he just leaked his own browser history. To cap off the disrespect, our hero strips down to reveal a torso that looks like a map of every bad decision an alien monster ever made. Cooked. He counts off mythical beasts and laser fire like he's just tallying up minor paper cuts. At least his face stayed pretty, because he's totally avoiding a lecture from his sister about why he's busy playing stress tester for giant death cannons. No crumbs. When the humbled antagonist asks why he bothered signing up for the hero life, our guy drops the equivalent of a job quit email and bounces. It's a total speedrun move that leaves the ex-boss standing there holding a bag of nothing. Transitioning back to street level, reality hits the surviving NPCs like a brick. He steps over the debris to reach his sister, finally putting his main character energy toward actually being a decent brother. He confirms his sister still has all her bits in the right places, then hands her off to a random passing hero like a hot potato. Duty calls, or maybe he just heard lunch was almost ready, so he dips. That new guy tries to spit game, but the sister just stands there looking like a deer in high beams. Our hero swings back around to drop a quick, awkward warning about playing safe before clearing his throat and doing a vanishing act. Negative aura. Meanwhile, the lab nerds are having a collective breakdown because their precious research got deleted. The boss is clearly having the worst Tuesday on record, and his team is definitely not vibing with his energy. Hard stuck. The second a new Neuralink toy hits the desk, our guy swoops in like an office intern hunting the last slice of pepperoni. He's completely blind to the scientific breakthrough, only dreaming about how his frame rates are about to pop off. Brain rot. 2 weeks later, the idol who caused a massive riot is somehow thriving in her prison uniform. Turns out the internet just loves a train wreck, and her popularity is skyrocketing while she's still locked behind bars. We're so back. At the airport, the lady who has been hanging around is finally shipping off to the academy, and our guy is doing his best impression of a stone statue. The tension is colder than a sect elder's DMs, but we all know he's just faking the indifference. She pulls him into a surprise bear hug that hits his system like a critical lag spike, and he turns a shade of red that signals incoming planes. She drops a vague prophecy about destiny and walks off, leaving him standing there like a robot that just lost its battery pack. The defeated villain returns as a spirit for an unwanted TED talk about repentance and the big-name clans coming for a scalp. It's basically a spoiler alert for a season finale that literally nobody asked for. F-tier. Life finally bottoms out into the usual domestic chaos, where the biggest threat is overcooked dinner. She's yelling at him to touch grass and ditch the screen, proving that even a legendary fighter ends up a background NPC in his own living room. But bro's about to trade the domestic L for some cracked gaming aura, so stay tuned. Our guy is currently locked into a VR game with his squad, aggressively spamming tactical commands like a teenager on a 3-day energy drink bender. He thinks he's hiding in plain sight, but honestly, he's putting more effort into these virtual trash mobs than most heroes put into actual city saving. Miss Dong suddenly crashes the party, looking absolutely ready to throw hands because the boys are busy gaming instead of heading to the big event. She dropped a small fortune on 6 exhibition tickets, and she's not about to let their total skill issue keep her from staring at some dusty memorabilia. At the museum, she's flexing those tickets like a mid-tier crypto bro with a fresh pump and dump, completely unaware that our main character is sweating bullets over the entry fees. He's one bad day away from realizing his entire life savings just went to a glorified gift shop. Suddenly, 13 starts making a scene by the display case, claiming he's the real deal and causing a massive headache for the security detail. The guy is clearly hard stuck in the roleplay phase, but watching the guards try to tackle him is comedy gold for the museum crowd. An expert starts yapping about how the stolen gear is just bait for every loser with a hero complex, while mentioning a high-profile arrest involving the SS-ranked powerhouse Taurus. It's wild how the system frames recruitment as an honor when everyone knows it's just glorified corporate indentured servitude. Down in the depths of the prison, the iron-fisted hero pulls up to the bars like a recruiter at a high school cafeteria trying to sell Rocky on a miserable career path. The shackled veteran just stares back, visibly unimpressed by the offer to join the establishment's elite ranks. Rocky completely pivots, erupting into a rant about how the registration law is responsible for wiping out his circle of brothers. He's not here for the badge or the benefits, showing more spine in a cage than the guy outside has in his entire custom-fitted suit. Taurus tries to push the narrative of public safety and dental plans, but the prisoner isn't buying the corporate propaganda for a second. He's convinced that once you start trading freedom for applause, you've already fumbled the bag on what being a hero really means. The inmate demands to know exactly which rule he broke to warrant the villain treatment, refusing to let them rewrite his history. He's clearly not cracked under the pressure of the system, even if his current living situation is basically a negative or a dungeon. He flat out tells the visitor he'd rather let his feet rot off than join the corporate circus, sending the hero packing with his tail between his legs. Meanwhile, Evan the blue-haired prisoner wakes up just to start trolling the whole room with his manic, unhinged laughter. The cellmate starts puffing out his chest, bragging about how he supposedly went toe-to-toe with the legendary hero 5 times and lived to tell the tale. It's peak delusion, but watching him try to intimidate his neighbor is honestly just sad for everyone involved. The two of them keep trading insults, trapped in a cycle of toxicity while they rot behind these 4 soundproof walls. Even with all the bravado, Evan knows they're both stuck in timeout, leaving their big talk drier than a sect elder's DMs. Back on the outside, the squad is just catching up on the latest neighborhood drama, discussing how the hero legends of old just vanished into thin air. It's hilarious how they speculate about epic 3-day battles while the real story is just some guy trying to pay rent. The girls decide they absolutely need the bootleg merch, and our guy is forced to empty his wallet at a street stall for the cause. He's paying premium coin for a cheap robe, proving that even a world-class powerhouse isn't safe from getting scammed by a sidewalk vendor. As the museum locks down for the night, a shadowy presence slips past the laser grids like he's playing hide-and-seek with toddlers. The security system was clearly designed by the lowest bidder because this man is moving through their defenses without even breaking a sweat. He shifts his form like literal fog, making the guards look like complete NPCs with their flashlights pointed at empty air. It's a masterclass in stealth that makes the entire museum setup look like a joke. The guards finally clock that someone broke in and try to swarm him, but the shadow-clad intruder produces a flaming weapon that definitely wasn't in their training manual. The vibe just shifted from quiet retrieval to full-blown boss fight before they could even finish their coffee break. But honestly, this absolute menace is about to trade those boss fight vibes for major nap-pilled energy. Ghostly statues of Lin Jai stand tall to remind everyone of peak performance, while Milady prays for a return that isn't happening. She thinks a hero is coming to save the day, but the guy is just busy speedrunning a nap. Meanwhile, President Aoyang and his suit-wearing buddies are having a full-blown meltdown over a missing robe. They are coping hard, convinced the retired legend is running petty crime errands, instead of realizing he has zero interest in their drama. The higher-ups are ordering a major news blackout to hide their L, but a masked commander in H-City swears he saw the main character in the flesh. It's pure brain rot. These NPCs see a shadow and think it's a comeback. Miss Dong is acting like her favorite show got a surprise reboot, literally vibrating with hype while showing off the morning news. Our guy looks absolutely gassed, telling her he hasn't moved a muscle, but she's already deep in the glazing phase. Down in the deep-sea submarine, the protagonist is acting like he's grinding pixels, completely drained while Toto yells like a backseat gamer. Beside him, a stressed guy named Claude is begging for a log-out button that won't appear. Evan starts phasing through walls like his connection is lagging, letting Irene hack the system for a quick 15-minute window. It's a total skill issue for the base security, getting dunked on by a couple of amateurs. The Tartarus commander loses it when the alarms start screaming and the ship goes dark. He's panicked and scrambling to plug leaks, proving that high-tier security can still get ratioed by a few simple bugs. Rocky decides to stop playing the stealth game and just starts tossing guards like they're garbage mobs. It's a full prison break party now, and he's clearly looking for a reason to throw his weight around. He lands a surprise hit on his buddy to settle a grudge, treating their teammate like a training dummy. The guy doesn't even dodge, just taking the L like he's hard stuck in a losing match. A giant robot rolls out as the final boss of the floor, but it's just a clunky obstacle getting in the way of the exit. The commander is mouthing in the background, while the duo treats the entire facility like an open door. They hit the water flailing like absolute noobs, scrambling away while the base explodes behind them in typical action flick fashion. It's not graceful, but they made the escape without getting nerfed by the structural damage. Back on dry land, the group reunites with Kira, who instantly kills the mood with a list of demands. He's back on that corporate grind, treating their close call like it's just part of a side quest. He pulls out a golden sword, acting like he fished a legendary item out of a demon dumpster. The squad stares at the relic, realizing their pay grade just got nuked by this massive lore drop. It turns out the final boss has been spawning this whole time, and the retired legend actually came back to grab his gear. The war is officially level maxing, and everyone is already cooked. But before this man gets totally cooked, he's taking 5 to catch a vibe. Lin Jai is actually vibing for once, crushing some grilled duck and beers with his squad. It is a rare moment of peace, but man, he basically has a permanent debuff that attracts side quests like they are free samples. Then this absolute clown in a cloak walks up, acting like the main character while demanding attention from the uncle. The lady at the table looks ready to log off from life entirely. 13 rolls up with some bottom-tier clues, giving our guy the perfect opening to ghost the entire conversation. He heads for the restroom, leaving everyone else to deal with the main story drama. Out of nowhere, the grill starts burping up purple clouds of straight brain rot. The smoke congeals into a monster that looks like a total eyesore, completely ruining the lunch aesthetic. This villain spawns in fully aggro, screeching like he expects a trophy for his performance. The building is shaking from the sheer negative aura, and honestly, the Yelp review is about to be brutal. 13 drops an ice wall like he is spamming defensive cooldowns, while Four Eyes pulls out a magic stick to attempt a parry. They are treating a burnt lunch like it is a competitive raid. The guy with the glasses takes massive frame damage. His shades shatter under the intensity, and despite a warning, he gets fully ratioed by the boss mechanics. Miss Dong snaps back to reality, calling for a timeout before someone gets folded for real. She is analyzing the threat like a patch log, and yeah, the stats are looking F-tier at best. Despite his tech being in critical condition, the eyewear enthusiast tries to dump his cooldowns with a desperate energy blast. The boss just ignores his pixelated DPS entirely. The main mob hits the split button, duplicating into 4 smaller wraiths and causing massive server lag for the heroes. Everyone is scrambling around like they are trying to save their progress before a crash. 13 decides to spam a giant water jet to try and clear the trash mobs. It saves his homie from getting camped, but the queue just keeps on refilling. Rocky returns to the lobby, popping a heavy punch that turns one of the mobs into complete confetti. Meanwhile, Irene is busy pre-charging her ultimate, ready to dump more hardware into this mess. That oversized robot finally connects, hitting the slime monster with enough force to put them way over budget on property repair. If it's got a health bar, you really have to hit it. The cloaked weirdo reappears to show off some high-rank vortex skills, vacuuming up the ads like he is speedrunning the encounter. It is a masterclass in why you don't crash a lunch date. Just when the squad thinks the lobby is clear, the main boss keeps popping off wraiths like it is infinite spawn mode. It is a massive skill issue, but the team refuses to rage quit yet. Finally, the bathroom door gets sent to the Shadow Realm as our guy strolls out, looking perfectly refreshed. He is totally oblivious to the fact his squad just got clowned on in a restaurant brawl. Little did this absolute NPC know, the main menu was about to get a serious skill issue. Our guy warps in looking like a fashion disaster, only to one-tap a giant with a low-effort slice. A hero watches this display and instantly realizes his own technique is strictly bargain bin quality, pure skill issue. Tracking the legend to a crusty boneyard, the squad finds his calling card waiting for them. When a resident ice user tries to play nice, the man just leaves her hanging, ghosting the entire hero squad like they're just unwanted spam. Talk about negative aura. The girl is left standing there looking like a total NPC, while the squad realizes their hero is officially off the grid. Civilians are already mouthing over the news, arguing if this return is a revolution or just a chaotic side quest. It's truly over. Government suits are losing their minds watching the monitors and realizing the rumors are real. One official is sweating bullets over the PR nightmare, while the local enforcer is trying to keep his cool before starting a fight. Total F-tier crisis management. Some arrogant desk jockey ignores the logic and just orders a hit squad to rush out anyway. They actually think throwing an arrest party is a great way to handle the situation, ignoring the fact they're getting cooked. Absolute clowns. Locked in a high-security hole, some disposable prisoners are being prepped for propaganda when a grin from the back changes everything. The legend announces his own revival, making it clear he's about to blow the whole budget on absolute carnage. We're so back. Guards get ready to tighten the screws, but he's already called in an airdrop meant to ruin their week. The look on their faces when the sirens wail is pure cinema. No shot this ends well for them. He doesn't even need a flight crew, just some mid-level brainwashing to get the job done. While he punts security guards like trash mobs, he barely looks invested in this tutorial-tier difficulty. Utterly cracked. That hijacked ship turns the prison into a firing range, yet none of the return fire seems to faze him. The automated defenses are dumping lead constantly, but the hull is tankier than a raid boss on easy mode. This structure is built different. Inside the facility, guards are folding the second those fancy nanomachines hit their skin. He explains his tech supremacy while they kneel in the dust, waiting for help that isn't coming. They got ratioed by basic biology. The man delegates the real heavy lifting to his sidekick and pops the prison gates for a mass breakout party. Turning the world's most secure site into a chaotic free-for-all is top-tier trolling. Absolute Sigma energy. Stepping out onto the deck like he just left a film set, he gets showered in confetti by his own hype squad. He basically says the grind is back on, so he's hitting the streets to cause some trouble. He ate and left no crumbs. Perched on his flying throne, he claims the skies while steering straight for the capital. Down below, the officials hit the panic button while scrambling for their biggest guns. Big final boss energy incoming. Missiles light up the sky, but he's just sitting there like he's watching a fireworks display for free. Avoiding orbital lasers while looking this calm is just peak main character behavior. The aura points are off the scale. But bro's chill vibe is about to get completely cooked by his own room temp IQ. 13 kicks things off by mashing the self-destruct button like a toddler finding the microwave timer. He cackles like he just pulled off the heist of the century instead of setting a fire he can't put out. Total skill issue. Meanwhile, the purple-haired tracker drags Lin Jai across the pavement like a sack of unwanted laundry. She's yapping about some clout-chasing copycat ruining their street cred, completely unaware an actual terrorist just went off the grid. The scene shifts to a meeting room where President Aoyang and his squad of overgeared heroes strut in. They're acting like a boy band ready for a comeback tour, hell-bent on hunting down whoever swiped that legendary robe. Peak mid-energy. Our redhead hero tries to play hardball, demanding the arrest of the poser, while the strategist argues that this guy cleared out the local trash mobs. It's like watching two NPCs argue over a quest log while the main boss is roaming free. Our guy tries to pivot the convo to the escaped convict, but the red-hooded suit is obsessed with internal paperwork. He's allergic to common sense. Talk about negative aura. The strategist explains that impersonating someone with that much social influence is a massive headache. She's acting like this is a geopolitical crisis, instead of just some guy living rent-free in their heads. When the suit drops the name of a high-tier heavy hitter lurking nearby, our protagonist realizes he's way too underleveled for this side quest. He bails immediately, speed-running his way out before the plot forces him to grind XP. High above, the pink-haired pilot drives like she's trying to clip through the map, skimming the ground and scaring the daylights out of her passengers. She's vibing while they're busy hyperventilating over the impending wreckage. Finally reaching the scrapyard, they spot a cloaked figure standing there with main character energy. He's completely unbothered by being flanked by a death squad. Talk about being built different. The faker calmly asks for backup to smash the registration laws, causing Rocky to lose his composure entirely. It's a classic case of past trauma getting ratioed by a complete lack of situational awareness. Just as the tension hits hard stuck levels, the imposter tugs a legendary blade out like it's a spare house key. He actually hit the ocean floor to go fetch the guy's lost loot. Absolute gigachad move. Seeing his cover is cooked, the mystery man decides he's done with this lobby and starts his getaway. The heroes are blowing a fuse, but he's already checking out of the conversation. Total ghosted. But before bro can even touch grass, he's already getting absolutely cooked by mid-tier corporate suits. We open at the office of a chairwoman playing HR rep for local superpowered vigilantes, where she thanks a top-tier hero for dropping off our D-rank protagonist. The guy immediately scoffs at the rookie's bottom-tier stats, while his purple-haired companion gets weirdly defensive about their recruit's registration. Absolute negative aura. The veteran hero is clearly projecting his insecurities, missing that he's chirping the literal final boss of the setting. Beside him, that fangirl is already glazing our boy, shouting to anyone listening that he is built different. It's truly a skill issue. Cut to the scrapyard at night, where two heroes are playing a tragic game of tag and getting cooked. They dump enough smoke to hide a bad haircut, but our guy just dodges the blast with pure main character energy. Tutorial-level maneuvers. They decide that splitting up is the best way to get nowhere, leaving the field clear for our purple-haired stalker to make a dramatic entrance. She's choking on the smog, dead set on exposing our boy as a fraudulent imposter because her parasocial obsession is down catastrophic. Talk about brain rot. She starts spamming golden projectiles, screaming that impersonating her idol is a one-way ticket to getting bodied. She's treating our guy like a low-effort skin mod in a game she's been grinding for way too long. The delusion is peak cinema. Our guy weaves through her entire kit, barely sweating while she yaps about his robe size and aesthetic choices. Each pink energy blast misses by a mile. He's essentially playing against a bot on the lowest difficulty. Ratioed. A massive explosion ruins the property, proving that high-tier hero work is mostly just property damage and poor impulse control. Deciding this side quest is mid, he tries to bail, but the stalker remains hot on his heels, still malding. She finally corners her target, but immediately blinds herself with a flash attack that has the tactical utility of a screen door on a submarine. Stumbling around in the dark, she loses her mark, giving our guy an easy out. Absolute cinema. Suddenly dropping the shadow act, He gets caught loafing and immediately reverts to his default mode of being a complete degenerate. He tries bribing her with spare change and a lack of self-respect, leaving her wondering if he's a main villain or just a random passerby with terrible vibes. Cooked. The second she realizes he's the same scrub from earlier, her mood swings from confused to actively homicidal. She grabs him by the collar, ready to catch a felony just because he existed in the same zip code as her favorite legend. So dramatic. She delivers a strike that cracks the pavement like a dropped phone, but our man just stands there looking mildly inconvenienced. She's internally losing her mind because she expected him to crumble, but he's basically indestructible. Talk about a buff tank. Things get touchy when he grabs her back, earning a slap that makes full contact with his face. He tosses out a magic circle like he's showing off a free tutorial move, and she jumps back instantly, calling him a total weirdo. We're so back. He summons a menacing dark circle with red runes, looking like the final boss of a server maintenance update. She freezes, her heart rate hitting redline as she realizes this guy is packing way more serious heat than she banked on. Truly built different. Now she's sweating and blushing, having a massive existential crisis for absolutely no discernible reason. She's trying to deny that she's down bad for the exact guy she tried to delete 5 minutes ago, but her own heart is snitching. She's definitely fumbled the bag. But before she can spiral any harder, this absolute menace decides to manifest and ruin everything. Anya is doing some serious self-reflection in bed while struggling to figure out why her heart won't stop pounding whenever she thinks about the guy. He decides to ruin her deep thoughts by popping up unannounced with a grin that screams main character syndrome, leaving her absolutely reeling from the jump scare. Back home, he starts his morning with his usual spiel about saving the world, clearly still stuck in a post-retirement main character maxing headspace. His sister 13 immediately clips his wings, reminding him he has actual civilian chores like sending the kid to school, effectively grounding his heroic delusions. While they're busy eating breakfast, the news decides to drop a bombshell that the world's most famous hero is officially back. Out on the streets, the local crowd is already getting riled up by a hooded figure who looks like he wandered out of a budget RPG side quest, demanding the government rewrite all their rules. The sister is visibly sweating, terrified that her brother might actually get his credentials back and leave her to handle the chores alone. He tries to comfort her with a promise to squash the beef, all while Miss Dong, a high-ranking official, stares down the angry mob with the exhausted look of a manager who hasn't had her morning coffee. The official is having a complete breakdown trying to convince the protesters that the loudmouth in the hood is a total fraud. It's hard to blame the crowd for being skeptical when the guy causing the drama is proving his point with actual results, giving off heavy, I told you so energy. Suddenly, a beefy guy decides to start a fight in an alleyway, but gets shut down by green tentacles erupting from the very walls like a discount nature deity. The culprit, this Evan person, doesn't even flinch, just smirking while chaos unfolds around his perfectly maintained suit. With the tension rising, he takes a moment to fix his fedora like a villain who just stepped off a runway. He summons a pair of black, bat-like wings that hang in the air, transforming his entire fit into something suspiciously edgy for a simple city standoff. The villain coordinates his next move with his partner before deciding they need a high-profile venue for their upcoming act. Meanwhile, an unsuspecting Long Wenfeng plays the role of the nice guy, casually inviting his friend's sister over for a cup of peace and quiet. The chill vibes evaporate the second those green vines come crashing through the architecture, forcing the host to pull his guest out of the line of fire. He wastes no time playing the protector, shoving the girl against a wall and ordering her to stay put like he's starring in an action flick. He finally gets a good look at the guy behind the ambush and realizes he's staring down the barrel of a major terrorist threat. The antagonist just smiles back at him. Acting like this is a business meeting gone slightly south instead of a life-or-death hostage situation. When the host tries to shut the conversation down, the bad guy resorts to hacking reality with some weird nanotech that tries to override his brain. It's a classic mind control maxing tactic, but the target manages to resist it with raw stubbornness, yelling at the tech to get lost. The villain isn't having any of that nonsense, so he drops a few seeds into a container that immediately go full-on killer botanist. Before anyone can blink, these massive, constricting vines shoot out and trap the host, effectively ending the fight before the tutorial even finished. With the host now well-wrapped in plant matter like a present nobody asked for, the villains announce that the real show is finally kicking off. They drag the sister away too, leaving the city totally unaware that it's about to become the site of a high-octane disaster movie. Lin Xiao quickly fills the sister in on the massive emergency, while the bad guys head straight for the top of the local skyscraper. They're wasting no time setting up, aiming to broadcast their nonsense to the entire city population at once. The perpetrator climbs to the roof to project himself as the star of his own twisted event, while showing off his fresh catch to the masses. The crowd below looks absolutely cooked, realizing their way out of their league against an S5 class threat who literally just dropped in to ruin their afternoon. And that's where Chapter 50 leaves us. Our guy is currently chilling at home, completely unaware that his city is about to host the terrorist event of the century. The pacing is absolutely unhinged, so hold onto your chairs, we're so cooked.